Trial Tuesday, once again, Attorney David Aylor here to talk about open container laws and what you can and cannot do as far as driving with an open container here in the Low Country. Good morning, Counselor. Let's pop the top on this very important issue and find out how we can stay safe. So what do people need to know if you're driving down the highway, you got a bottle of wine that you opened up, had a glass of, then put a stopper back in?
Well, what they need to know is that that bottle needs to be in the trunk or in some compartment that they, as the driver or any passengers in the vehicle, do not have access to. Same with liquor as well. When you're talking about liquor that has the seal of the bottle actually broken, meaning it's been opened at some point.
Now, if you are pulled over and police officer, law enforcement agent decides that, you might have probable cause to search your car, do you want to immediately tell them that, hey, you know what, I have this bottle of wine, I have this bottle of liquor, it was, a friend of mine's, we're just transporting it, I promise you that, nothing's happening, I'm not drunk or anything like that. Do you want to let them know right now before they search the car?
Well, that's going to be a question for someone who's involved in that situation. Obviously, what you tell the police can aid them within their process. On the other hand, it can also be used against you. So that's really going to be specific to the incident. But the bottom line is, if you have that bottle of wine or that bottle of liquor that's been opened and it's in the very back in the trunk or some other concealed area that is not accessible by the driver or the passengers, you'll be fine. One other thing that I want to mention is a lot of times people get confused thinking about if they have a mixed drink, meaning that it's just a cup of something, maybe a juice or some sort of mixer with just a little bit of alcohol. That still is going to be considered an open container in a vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. This goes for beer, for wine, anything like that. We should definitely express that this is illegal. You cannot have an open container in your passenger vehicle, that compartment of the car.
No, and you can't, and there's sometimes you hear about other states that they say have these laws, which I've never seen these before, but they'll say, like, well, for instance, what if the driver is not drinking? There used to be a law way back in South Carolina, at one point the driver's even allowed to drink. Then it was that just the passengers could drink, but now the driver couldn't. In the state of South Carolina, it's zero tolerance. There's no open container of any sort, no matter if the driver's completely sober, the person may be in the back seat, doesn't matter if they're over 21, whether it be liquor, beer, wine, under no circumstances are you allowed to have open alcohol inside a vehicle.
And Counselor, let's frame this a little bit. Obviously, this is a safety concern, and that's why that law was passed. It's out of safety for drivers and other drivers on the road.
Right. I mean, it's just the combination of obviously getting behind the wheel and then continuing to drink alcohol. We know what the limits are. We've talked about them several times on this show regarding what someone should or shouldn't do if they have been drinking and get behind the wheel. But what we're talking about here is a completely safe issue regarding when someone's getting stopped, whether they're drinking themselves and end up getting distracted or have issues, or of course if other people in the vehicle are consuming alcohol.
Let's talk about that bottle of wine example again that's in the trunk in a separate kind of compartment away from the passengers. Do you need to have something specific stopping that liquid from spilling out? Let's say in a bottle of wine, can it be a cork? Can it be a stopper? Can it be a plastic wrap, tin foil? Does it matter?
It really doesn't, as long as it's closed. And it's not really so much how you close it, whether you stick a rag in there to stop it from leaking or whatever it may be. The more point that they're going to be concerned about is whether or not you as the driver, which obviously would be unlikely that you'd be able to get into the trunk from there, but also if the passengers. I've had cases myself before where people say, well, it was in the trunk, but then also if there's easy access to the trunk or a tailgate area where they're just reaching over per se, that is not what under the law would be considered legal, because again, you still have access to that alcohol while in the vehicle.
I know you did your research on this topic yesterday, so let's say that bottle of wine, you do have half of it and then you put it behind you in the back seat. Can you get a DUI from that?
Well, obviously that's going to be a factor that could come into play, and it often is related to DUI arrests. Many times with DUI arrests, you have an open container charge that goes along with it. Sometimes the officers use their discretion and don't charge for the open container, but they will cite that there was an open bottle of liquor or a mixed drink or a beer can. So it definitely is not going to help you in trying to prove that you should be behind the wheel with open alcohol in the vehicle.
Then when that charge is read into court, it's got to kind of destroy your credibility as well.
Well, it doesn't help.
Indeed.
All right, you need a good lawyer at that point.
Indeed you do. There's one right there. Attorney David Aylor, thank you so much for your time, sir, and we'll be definitely keeping an eye on this issue and making sure that people stay safe out on the roadways. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you as always. Much more Low Country Live after this. Stay with us.